questioning the Soviet Union, the United States, and Germany about what happened in the Berlin Airlift and the thoughts behind it. Since June of 1948, the US had been aiding Berlin by sending in food and resources with airplanes because the Soviet Union had cut off all land and water transit to West Berlin. It seems that this was an attempt for the Soviet Union to control Germany, but first, let's go ask the Soviet Union why they constructed this blockade in the first place.
The blockade put in place was a necessary response to westward aggression. As mentioned in the Potsdam Conference, Germany was split into 4 occupation zones, and with this, Berlin was also split into 4 zones. This policy was put in place to ensure a unified administration under all 4 powers. Yet, the Western Allies have violated this agreement. For example, the Dutch mark was an attempt by the Allies to impose capitalistic control over Germany. The selfish Allies are trying to impose their own beliefs on the people of Germany, whereas the Soviets want to maintain a peaceful and demilitarized Germany. This forced us to put a blockade in place to prevent any more nefarious sabotage from the Allies. If the Western Allies truly want peace and stability, they will come to an agreement regarding their occupation of West Berlin and negotiate a fair solution. The Soviet Union is still committed to peace and to the reconstruction of Germany under a system that does not serve capitalists.
I see. So this is because of the conflict between American and Soviet Union doctrines. How do you feel about capitalist countries wanting to rebuild Germany?
Regarding the Allies' desire to rebuild Germany with their capitalistic beliefs, we strongly believe that their claims of rebuilding Germany with democracy and ensuring its safe recovery is their way of creating a stronghold of Western imperialism. This is another deceiving tactic used by the Allies, attempting to rebuild Germany as a peaceful and neutral state and then use them for their capitalistic expansion. Their attempt at the Marshall Plan was a cover-up for economic enslavement, binding Germany and other European nations to the Allies' financial interests.
Now let's see what the US has to say. What is your reason for protecting Germany?
We are deeply committed to the security of West Berlin. Their economic success and political freedom is important to America's agenda of spreading democracy to the world. Our containment doctrine also aims at providing economic and military aid to countries resisting Soviet influence, and that includes Germany.
So your main reason for aiding Germany is because you want to prevent the spread of communism while at the same time ensuring the safety of capitalism. Why is it that this blockade is specifically happening to Berlin?
Western Europe has been under American influence and Eastern Europe has been under Soviet control. The agendas of the USSR and the US have differed largely recently. The USSR believes in punishing Germany harshly for World War II, while the US believes that a prosperous Germany will lead to a prosperous Europe. This difference in ideals has been tense, to say the least.
I see. Now, a question to Germany. What has been some of the experiences of the German people during the Berlin Airlift so far?
Well, the rest of West Germany itself was doing pretty okay, barring any political attacks from the USSR, of course. But in West Berlin, it was extremely dire. In all 4 zones, they've been cut off from any electrical and water utility stations in the rest of East Germany. So we had basically a lack of fuel and electricity for the entire year from 48 to 49. So, and without any access to food too, we were pretty much not going to survive any longer than 36 days as it was estimated. So with the Allied airlift, we had an addition of 1,500 tons of food to feed our 2 million residents in Berlin, and an additional 3,400 tons of coal, diesel, and petrol. So it was very crucial that we saw this airlift occur, and it is in this situation where we see heroes like Gail Halvorsen of the US Air Force, also known as the Candy Bomber. So he was a great cause of rejuvenation for our people in West Berlin, and without these great heroes, I do not think we'd have been able to survive for the full year.
After nearly a year of this whole ordeal and of valiant efforts made by the United States to aid the German people, the Soviet Union decides to take down the blockade. Why has the Soviet Union decided to take down the blockade now?
Nearly a year, the USSR has taken the initiative to resist provocative attempts. The Allies want to divide Germany and spread their capitalistic ideals throughout Europe. Despite this, the Soviet Union has tried its best to avoid conflict and seek justice. Regardless of this, though, the Western Allies resorted to flying planes over Berlin and giving food to the people in an attempt of defiance and recklessness. As a responsible global power, the USSR has ultimately decided to uplift this blockade, representing our commitment to diplomacy. This uplift is not a sign of weakness, but it is a sign of the Soviet Union's unwavering desire to uphold foreign relations.
Back to the United States and Germany, how do you feel about the Soviet Union finally taking down the blockade?
We are relieved that the USSR has taken down the blockade. It has taken 11 months, millions of dollars, and 2 million tons of food to get to this point. We believe this is a symbol of the Allies' willingness to oppose further Soviet expansion and our dedication to upholding our containment doctrine. The blockade has only shown the USSR's true colors and aggressive nature. We believe this crisis has transformed Berlin into a symbol of democracy, and it has also strengthened the US in the fight against communism.
That's a good question. How do we feel about the end of the blockade? So, speaking for the entirety of the German people, I can fully say that we are happy with the recent ending of the blockade. But I do believe that the Soviet Union has shows its true colors and intentions of not upholding the terms made at the Yalta Conference. They said that there would be free democratic elections and liberty allowed in the Eastern Bloc. Quote unquote, but I have not seen that yet, and I think this Berlin blockade just further exemplified their tightening of control and increasing of authoritarianism in the Eastern Bloc. So, and as said by Russia earlier, that they were, quote unquote, saving us from economic enslavement. This is just completely untrue because there has been no aid given to the war-torn European nations, and in terms of the Western nations, we've seen the Marshall Plan giving hundreds of millions of dollars in economic aid to the rest of them, but in Eastern Europe, I do not believe they have gotten anything. So this is a factualist argument, in my opinion. So, and I believe even though the blockade has ended, and I'm very happy about that. Unfortunately, I think it's an indication of a shift in Soviet rhetoric in the rest of Europe for the near future to come.
Finally, going back to Germany, what are your final thoughts on the United States and the Soviet Union?
Well, during the war, World War II, we were basically already biased to capitalism, as during the last days of Germany, we were treated much better by the Allied powers compared to the Soviets. So there was already a slight bias, but I do believe with the foundation of East Germany, many people in East Germany and the rest of the Eastern Bloc itself were open to the idea of communism. But I think specifically in East Germany with this blockade and also, of course, in West Berlin itself, there's been a massive churn against socialism and communism as an idea. So we basically went from a neutral feeling between both powers to a more heavily favorited to the United States because of this blockade. So I think it is important to understand for most Germans that communism is now the true enemy of our people, and the